They don't just buy a truck, they buy a piece of who they are. And if you've ever met someone who owns a Ford truck, you already know. You don't just own a Ford, you become a Ford person.
So what's really going on inside the mind of someone who swears by the blue oval? Because this isn't just brand loyalty. This is something deeper, something psychological, something that taps into the very core of human identity.
And by the end of this, you're going to see Ford truck owners, maybe even yourself, in a completely different way. Let's start with something most people never think about. When you choose a vehicle, you're not just solving a transportation problem.
You're making a statement about who you are, what you value, and how you want the world to see you. Psychologists call this the extended self theory, the idea that our possessions literally become part of our identity. And no vehicle on Earth activates this theory quite like a Ford truck.
Think about it. A Ford F-150 owner doesn't say, "I drive a truck." They say, "I'm a truck guy." That one word, "am," changes everything. It's not something they have, it's something they are. And that distinction is where the psychology gets fascinating.
Now, here's something that will make you look at truck culture completely differently. Studies in consumer psychology have found that people who develop this kind of fierce brand loyalty aren't responding to the product itself. They're responding to what the product says about them. The truck is almost irrelevant. What matters is the story it tells the world, and, more importantly, the story it tells themselves. Ford truck lovers tend to score high in what psychologists call need for distinctiveness with belonging. It sounds like a contradiction, wanting to be unique but also wanting to belong, but it's actually one of the most powerful psychological combinations in human behavior. Ford gives them both. You're part of a massive, decades-long tribe, and yet you're set apart from the average car driver who couldn't haul a load or handle a dirt road if their life depended on it. That sense of capability matters enormously. There's a concept in psychology called self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to handle challenges. Ford truck owners wrap their sense of self-efficacy in sheet metal. The truck isn't just a vehicle, it's proof. Proof that they can handle hard things, carry heavy loads, get through rough terrain. Even if the truck never leaves the city, the capability is there, and psychologically, that's enough. The potential matters as much as the reality. And this connects to something even deeper, the psychology of work and identity. Ford trucks have always been tied to the working class, to people who build things, fix things, and get things done. When you drive a Ford truck, you're aligning yourself with that legacy. You're saying, without words, I'm someone who works hard. I don't take shortcuts. I carry my own weight. In a world that increasingly values appearance over substance, that message is incredibly powerful and incredibly appealing to a certain type of person. Let's talk about the tribal psychology for a moment, because this is where things get really interesting. The Ford versus Chevy debate isn't just friendly banter. It's one of the most studied examples of consumer tribalism in modern psychology. When two groups form around competing brands and develop genuine emotional responses, pride, rivalry, even contempt, something tribal and ancient has been activated in the brain. The same neural circuits that once fired when early humans defended their clan from rival groups now fire when a Ford owner sees a Chevy in the rearview mirror. This isn't irrational. It's deeply human. We are wired to find our group, defend our group, and feel superior to the other group. And Ford truck culture has mastered this dynamic, whether intentionally or not, for over a century. Now, let's go back even further to childhood. Because here's something that often gets overlooked. A significant number of Ford truck loyalists grew up in Ford families. Their father drove a Ford. Their grandfather drove a Ford. The smell of that cab, the sound of that engine, the feeling of riding in the back as a kid, it all got encoded into the brain during the most emotionally formative years of life. Psychologists call this imprinting, and it's extraordinarily powerful. When you buy the same truck your dad drove, you're not just buying a truck, you're buying a feeling. You're buying connection, memory, safety, and identity, all wrapped up in one vehicle. You're keeping something alive. And that emotional weight is something no amount of competitor advertising can easily undo. Here's a question nobody asks. Why is it always trucks and not sedans that generate this level of passion?
You don't meet people who say, I'm a Toyota Camry person with fire in their eyes. But Ford F-150 owners, they'll defend that truck at a dinner table. The reason is physical presence. Trucks are imposing. They're tall, wide, loud, and powerful. And decades of research in environmental psychology shows that the physical characteristics of objects transfer, at least in perception, to the people who own them. You feel bigger in a truck. You feel more capable. You feel like you take up more space in the world. And for many people, that feeling is addictive. There's also the concept of masculine identity at play here, and it goes beyond gender. The psychological archetype of the rugged, self-reliant, capable individual, what researchers call the frontier or pioneer identity, is deeply embedded in American culture and especially in truck culture. Ford, with its 1956 Built Ford Tough ethos and its endless commercials showing trucks hauling impossible loads through impossible terrain, has spent decades positioning itself as the vehicle of that archetype. And people who resonate with that archetype find their tribe in Ford trucks. But here's the part that might surprise you. Studies show that people who demonstrate the highest brand loyalty, the kind that Ford truck owners display, often use their brand as a coping mechanism during times of personal uncertainty. When life feels unstable, when identity feels threatened, anchoring yourself to something solid, something consistent, something that has never let you down, provides genuine psychological comfort. The truck becomes a stable object in an unstable world. And Ford has delivered that reliability, both real and perceived, for generations. This is also why Ford truck owners react so strongly when someone criticizes their truck. It doesn't feel like an attack on a product. It feels like an attack on them, on their judgment, their values, their identity. Because the truck and the self have merged. Criticism of one is criticism of both. And the brain responds accordingly, with the same defensiveness it reserves for personal attacks. There's one more layer to this, and it might be the most profound one. In psychology, there's something called mortality salience, the awareness of our own death and the ways we cope with it. One of the most powerful coping mechanisms humans have developed is legacy, leaving something behind, being remembered. Ford trucks have been passed down from fathers to sons and daughters for generations. They outlast relationships, jobs, and sometimes even the people who own them. For a Ford truck lover, that truck isn't just a machine. It's a piece of time. It's proof that they were here, that they worked hard, that they mattered. So the next time you see someone fiercely defending their Ford truck, don't see stubbornness. Don't see brand obsession. See a human being who has found something rare in a complicated world, a clear, consistent answer to the question that haunts every one of us. Who am I? They found their answer, and it's Built Ford Tough.